There is a multi-billion-dollar industry built entirely on one emotion. The fact that people hate their gray hair. Supplements, serums, oils, powders, pills, all of them promising to reverse it, slow it, stop it completely. And the marketing is sophisticated. The before and after photographs are compelling. The testimonials feel real. But here is what 13 years in medicine has taught me about industries that sell solutions to emotionally loaded problems. The more powerful the emotion, the less rigorous the science needs to be to make the sale. My name is Dr. Miles, and what I want to give you today is what science actually says. Not what the supplement companies want you to believe. Not the oversimplified version that gets passed around as fact. The real biology of why your hair loses its color, what genuinely influences that process, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it that the evidence supports. Because most people have this completely wrong, and that misunderstanding is costing them money, costing them time, and in some cases causing them to ignore things that actually matter. Before we get into it, if this is the kind of honest, evidence-based content you want more of, please subscribe to this channel right now. Every week, I break down the science without an agenda and without anything to sell you. It genuinely means everything when you join this community. Now, let us get into it. First, the emotional truth. Before the biology, I want to say something that most doctors would skip over entirely. Gray hair carries a weight that other physical changes simply do not. It is visible. It is permanent. And for a great many people, it starts far earlier than they ever expected. In your 30s, sometimes in your 20s, sometimes even earlier than that. And I want to be honest, I am already getting a few gray hairs at the sides myself. It is what it is, but I understand the feeling. It is not vanity in the shallow sense. It is something deeper. Gray hair is associated with the passage of time in a way that feels irreversible. And that emotional current, that very real, very human discomfort, is exactly what gets monetized by an industry that has never had your long-term health as its primary concern. So I am not here to dismiss how you feel about this. I am here to make sure that what you do about it is actually grounded in something real. The biology, what is actually happening. To understand why hair goes gray, you need to understand what gives it color in the first place. Inside every single hair follicle on your head, there are specialized cells called melanocytes. These cells produce a pigment called melanin, the compound responsible for giving your hair its color. Dark hair, light hair, red hair, all of it comes down to the type and amount of melanin your melanocytes are producing. But here is the part that most people never hear. Melanocytes cannot sustain themselves indefinitely. They need to be constantly replenished by something called melanocyte stem cells, which sit in a specific region of the follicle and act as a reservoir. Every time a new hair grows, that reservoir is drawn on. Fresh melanocytes are produced. Melanin is deposited. Your hair comes out with color. Think of it like an ink cartridge that needs constant refilling. When the supply runs low, when those stem cells become depleted or damaged, new hairs start growing in with little to no pigment, transparent. What we see is gray or white. That is gray hair. That is biology in its simplest form. And every single factor that influences graying genetics, stress, diet, sleep, smoking, works through this exact same pathway. The stem cells, the reservoir, the refilling system. Number 1, genetics, the part you cannot change. Genetics is unquestionably the biggest single determinant of when this process starts for you. If your parents went gray early, the probability is high that you will too. Large-scale genetic studies across thousands of people have identified specific genes, including one called IRF4, that are directly linked to the timing of graying. This is inherited. It is real. And no supplement you buy online is going to alter your genetic baseline. But here's the framing that actually matters. And this is where most people get it wrong. Genetics loads the gun. It sets a window, an expected trajectory based on your biology. What it does not do is determine exactly how fast you move through that window. That part is significantly shaped by how you live. The clearest way to illustrate this is with a thought experiment that the research on twins makes possible. Take 2 genetically identical people, same DNA, same inherited predisposition to gray early. One of them sleeps well, exercises regularly, eats whole food, and manages stress effectively. The other does not. Decades of twin research show us that lifestyle factors can shift life expectancy by 10 years or more between genetically identical people. The same biological processes driving that difference in longevity are operating inside the hair follicle as well. The twin who lives well may still go gray, but later, more gradually, and against the backdrop of a body that is aging more slowly in every system that matters. Genetics is a starting point, not a fixed destination. Number 2, stress the mechanism. The science has now confirmed. The relationship between stress and gray hair has been observed clinically for a long time. People have always reported that periods of extreme psychological pressure seem to accelerate the process. For years, this was dismissed as an anecdote. Then in 2020, a landmark paper published in the journal Nature confirmed the mechanism in precise biological detail. Researchers showed that acute psychological stress activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, which floods the follicles with a chemical called noradrenaline. That surge of noradrenaline causes the melanocyte stem cells to overactivate. They divide too rapidly. They burn through the reservoir far faster than normal aging would. And once those stem cells are gone, they do not come back. The follicle permanently loses its ability to replenish melanocytes. Every new hair it produces afterwards comes out without pigment. This was initially demonstrated in animal models, but the mechanism maps directly onto human stress biology, and it aligns with what clinicians have been observing for years. Chronic, unmanaged stress is not a vague background factor in graying. It is a direct biological accelerant acting on the very stem cells responsible for hair color. The implication of this is significant. Stress management is not a soft, optional lifestyle recommendation. It is a direct intervention in the biological process driving premature graying, and it is completely free. Number 3, oxidative stress, the broader aging connection. Closely related to psychological stress is a process called oxidative stress, and this is where the story extends far beyond hair. Oxidative stress is cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. These accumulate faster when you are sleeping poorly, eating a low-quality diet, exercising infrequently, or living under chronic psychological pressure. Human follicle studies have shown that oxidative damage specifically targets melanocytes and their stem cells, wearing down the pigment system over time. But here is what makes this genuinely important. The same oxidative process is simultaneously aging your arteries, damaging neurons in your brain, driving metabolic dysfunction, and compromising the function of virtually every organ system in your body. Your hair follicle does not live in isolation. It lives inside the same biological environment as your heart and your brain. It responds to the same inputs. It is damaged by the same forces. Gray hair is not just a cosmetic issue. It is the visible surface of a much deeper biological process. And the lifestyle factors that slow that process are exactly the same ones that protect your cardiovascular system, your cognitive function, and your metabolic health simultaneously. This is what the supplement industry will never tell you, because it cannot be packaged into a capsule and sold at a margin. What the evidence actually supports. The Premature trial, one of the largest and most rigorous dietary intervention studies ever conducted, following over 7,000 people across multiple years, showed that a Mediterranean dietary pattern dramatically reduced systemic oxidative stress, inflammatory markers, and cardiovascular risk compared to a standard low-fat diet. The Lion Diet Heart Study, following survivors of heart attacks, found that a Mediterranean-style diet reduced the risk of a second cardiovascular event by over 70%. These are landmark human trials. What they demonstrate is that the way you eat fundamentally changes the biological environment that every cell in your body operates in, including the cells responsible for pigmenting your hair. Regular exercise tells the same story. A 2019 meta-analysis, pulling together data from multiple randomized controlled trials, found that consistent aerobic and resistance exercise significantly reduces oxidative damage markers and improves the body's own antioxidant defenses. Exercise also directly counteracts sympathetic nervous system activation, the exact pathway the Nature paper identified as the key driver of stem cell depletion. The evidence is consistent, the pathways are shared, and unlike anything being sold in a supplement aisle, exercise and diet improve every system in your body simultaneously. Your cardiovascular health, your metabolic health, your cognitive function, and the biological environment your hair follicles are operating in. Number 4. Nutrient deficiencies. The exception worth knowing. There is one area where targeted intervention genuinely makes biological sense, and it is worth separating clearly from the general supplement noise. Specific nutrient deficiencies, low B12, low ferritin, low copper, vitamin D deficiency, and thyroid dysfunction have all been associated with premature graying in the clinical literature. These are real, they are measurable, and they are correctable. If you are under 40 and your hair is graying rapidly, get a blood test with your doctor. Not a supplement, a blood test. Your GP will either find a genuine deficiency and treat it properly with the right intervention at the right dose, or they will confirm that your levels are fine, which is proof that the supplement was never necessary in the first place. That distinction matters enormously. Correcting a real measured deficiency is entirely different from a healthy, well-nourished adult spending money every month on a supplement, promising to restore their natural color. The supplement industry does not make that distinction clearly. It is not in their financial interest to do so. When a company conducts a trial on 40 people over 8 weeks and uses it to claim that their product reverses graying, that is not science. That is the exploitation of an emotional vulnerability dressed up as science. And it is extraordinarily profitable, precisely because gray hair touches something deep in how people feel about themselves and their age. Number 5. Smoking, the most obvious accelerant. One more factor that deserves a direct mention. Smoking. Multiple independent studies have found a consistent association between smoking and premature graying, even after controlling for age and genetics. The mechanism is the same one that runs through this entire video. Smoking dramatically amplifies oxidative stress and compromises blood flow to peripheral tissues, including the scalp. If you smoke and you are graying earlier than you expected, this is not a coincidence, and it is the most straightforward possible intervention available to you. What this all means. There is no supplement with robust, replicated, large-scale human trial evidence showing that it meaningfully slows or reverses age-related graying in healthy adults. That evidence does not exist. What does exist across decades of serious research and thousands of participants is evidence for lifestyle. Mediterranean dietary patterns, regular structured exercise, adequate consistent sleep, not smoking, managing your psychological stress load. These are the interventions that the evidence actually supports. And the remarkable thing about all of them is that they are free. And they do not just work on your hair. They work on every biological system that determines how long you live and how well you function across the decades ahead. Your arteries, your brain, your metabolic health, your immune system, your skin, all of it responds to the same inputs. The same trials showing cardiovascular protection are illuminating the biology that protects your follicles as well. Some people will go gray before 30. Genetics is powerful, and for some people, the window is narrow, regardless of how well they live. But narrow does not mean closed. Even a small delay, graying more gradually, later than you otherwise would, happens against the backdrop of a body aging more slowly in every system that matters. You are not just potentially protecting your hair color. You are protecting your future. The gray hair is the visible surface. What lies underneath it is the biology of how you age. And the tools that actually influence that process do not come in a capsule. If this video gave you something the supplement companies never will, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Every week, I put out content that cuts through the noise and gives you the science without the agenda. Share this with someone spending money on gray hair supplements right now. That conversation could save them far more than money. I will see you in the next one.